Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you're building automation workflow in tools like N8n or just diving into backend integration, today's topic is really a game changer. We are breaking down webhooks and HTTP request nodes, two powerful tools that connect your apps, sync your data, and let your automation run like clockwork. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what a webhook node is, how it acts like a front door for your automation to catch live events like form submission or incoming messages, and how the HTTP request node allows you to send or pull data from any API like Slack, Stripe, Google Sheets, or your own internal servers. We will walk through real world examples of how companies use these nodes to automate everything from customer support to sales pipeline. Whether you are an automation engineer or an N8n power user, this video is packed with insights to take your workflow game to the next level. So let's all dive in. Okay, so what is a webhook node? A webhook node in N8n is a trigger node. It exposes a unique URL endpoint that external systems can call via an HTTP GET, POST, or other method to start your workflow. How it works: when you activate a workflow containing a webhook node, N8n registers that URL and begins listening. Okay? An external service like Twilio, Stripe, GitHub, or a custom app sends an HTTP call to that URL when an event occurs. N8n captures the request header, query parameters, and body into the workflow first item. Now again, the query parameters, headers, and the body, we will come to it at the end of this video because I would also like to talk about what are these. The remainder of your workflow then processes that data. Data is pushed instantly, no polling delays. It avoids wasteful scheduled API calls. Many SaaS products support webhooks out of the box. So now we have understood about what is webhook. Now let's talk about HTTP request. So what is an HTTP request node? So HTTP request node in N8n is an action node. It allows your workflow, once it's already running, to make outbound HTTP calls to any RESTful API or service. Okay. You specify a method like get, post, put, delete, patch, and then you also provide URL, headers, query parameters, and body. During a workflow run, this node performs the HTTP call, waits for the response, and makes the response data available as that node's output item. Subsequent nodes can read from HTTP response to decide what is next. Why use HTTP request nodes? Nearly every modern platform offers a REST API. You define exactly how you want to call it: authentication, payload shape, timeouts. This allows for dynamic data handling, enables users to adapt workflow according to specific needs. It also gives user control over the flow of information, ensuring efficient management of data in workflows. Okay, so let's talk about what is the difference between webhook node and HTTP request node. So a webhook node serves as a pivotal element in workflow. It continuously listens for specific events from external services. It could be Stripe or any other external services. Once triggered, workflow can initiate automated processes, enhancing efficiency and productivity. The direction is inbound. What it basically means is that webhook node enables data to flow into N8n from various external sources. And it can respond dynamically to external stimuli like from submissions or API callbacks. As I said, you can receive requests or submissions from a form or a Stripe or any other external services. The workflow positions, it's always the first node. Webhook node, unlike HTTP node, the webhook node is always the first node. Positioning the webhook node as the first node ensures that incoming data is processed correctly and efficiently. You definitely requires an active workflow because you cannot run this in an inactive mode in N8n. You need to have the workflow as an active workflow. So you have to set it on the top as active in N8n. So keeping the workflow active allows it to respond to incoming requests at all times without any delay. Webhooks allows external services to send real-time data It could be from Stripe or GitHub. Okay. It also, applications can receive instant notification about events, enhancing user experiences and responsiveness. So the Webhook node allows for immediate processing of events, ensuring that workflow responds to data without delay. When an event occurs, the corresponding workflow is triggered instantly. Real-time data processing allows for swift responses, enhancing operational efficiency. Let's talk about HTTP request node, right? So what is the HTTP request node? We have already covered, but in terms of the differences between Webhook node and HTTP request node, the HTTP request node serves as an action point in the workflow, enabling data exchanges with external services. This node is responsible for sending and retrieving data to and from external API, enhancing workflow capabilities. So unlike Webhook node, this does not need to be the first node, right? It can be anywhere in your workflow, and it is a crucial component that facilitates sending data to external services effectively. Outbound data direction allows seamless integration with various APIs. You can connect to various APIs. The workflow positions, it can appear anywhere after the trigger. So Webhook node has to be the first trigger, but HTTP node can be anywhere within your automation workflow, which provides a very great flexibility in terms of the automation, and it can be used across different contexts, enhancing the automation process. The HTTP request node is versatile and can execute workflow triggered both manually and through scheduled cron jobs. Manual triggering allows users to execute workflows on demand, enhancing flexibility in operation. Scheduled cron job execution enables automated workflow to run at specified intervals, optimizing efficiency. So it enables seamless interaction with REST APIs. It utilizes HTTP request node to fetch data from external services efficiently. The nodes can also be used to send data to external API as required by the application. So the execution time of the HTTP request node varies based on the workflow trigger point, affecting overall responsiveness. The workflow trigger dictates when the HTTP request node executes, highlighting the differences in real-time behavior. Unlike the HTTP request node, the Webhook node operates in real time, responding immediately to incoming requests. So the HTTP request node allows users to access and utilize API responses effectively, and the data obtained from the API can be leveraged in subsequent nodes, facilitating. Okay, so let's talk about some real world Webhook examples. Let's talk about Twilio. So Twilio has a special trigger, which is a Webhook trigger, which is there in N8n application. So Twilio is a cloud platform that lets developer easily build voice, messaging, email, and video features directly into their apps. So the way the Twilio trigger works is, and I'm going to take an example of Twilio to Salesforce integration through N8n. So here what's happening is, as soon as the customer texts the number or calls up your number, right, the N8n receives the data from the Twilio and processes it without any polling or without any delay whatsoever. Then the Twilio trigger, which is a Webhook trigger, it basically monitors incoming Twilio events. By connecting Twilio and Salesforce with N8n, you can capture every incoming call and message instantly. You can look up or create the corresponding contact in your CRM, which is Salesforce, if that contact is not present, and automatically schedule a follow-up task. So then based on whether it's during the business hours or after hours, you can even send an immediate acknowledgement via text or voice. The result is zero manual data entry, lightning fast follow-ups, and no more lost opportunities. Okay, so let's now see that in action in N8n. So right now what you see here is a Twilio trigger, which is nothing but a webhook. So this workflow that you see within N8n is it connects the Twilio with Salesforce, and based on incoming message or call, Twilio webhook trigger will trigger the entire workflow. It will check for whether that customer contact exists in Salesforce or not. If it doesn't, then it will go ahead and create a new contact in Salesforce, and accordingly also it will create a new task for the sales personnel to kind of make a call to the customer whenever they arrive. Let's say it's after business hours that the customer has called, then probably the next morning when the salesperson arrive, then he can make a call to the customer and close the entire lead cycle, right? So we will go ahead and test this workflow, and we will see how it behaves. So before that, you see here in Salesforce there is no open task right now, and as we trigger this workflow using this webhook trigger, we will see that a particular task has been generated for the sales rep to make a contact or maybe call the customer probably next morning. So we'll just test it out, and you can see here all the nodes are getting executed, and now you see the message workflow executed successfully. And if I go ahead and just look up in the open task, I can find out that a task has been created for the sales rep. So that's the beauty of N8n and especially the webhook. I just wanted to show that. Similarly, you can integrate Stripe payment through Webhook. Stripe payment events can be integrated with Webhook nodes, allowing for real-time data transfer and notifications. Payment status updates can be managed automatically, ensuring accurate financial records and timely communications. Then you can also integrate GitHub push notifications. It can enable automated notifications from GitHub, enhancing collaboration among team members during code pushes. It can automate the testing processes upon code changes, thus ensuring that new code is verified and functional before deployment. Like that, you can also integrate Typeform. So Typeform is an application where you can create new forms. So you can do user submission through Typeforms, which can initiate data processing workflow, enhancing user experience and operational efficiency. A webhook node can be triggered immediately after form submission, allowing for real-time data handling. Customer IoT device alerts. Webhook nodes facilitates real-time monitoring by receiving alerts from IoT devices, ensuring prompt responses to changes. So not just Stripe or GitHub, but also you can it has a wide range of context, and you can actually integrate through the webhooks a wide number of applications, including IoT devices. Now let's take some of the real world HTTP request examples, because we saw the webhooks examples, but now let's look at the HTTP request example. So through using HTTP requests, you can do also wide variety of tasks. For example, you can create a Jira tickets. You can automate Jira ticket creation from N8n, which can help streamline your project management processes and improve team collaborations. Like that, you can fetch weather data, right? Fetching weather data from public API allow your applications to provide real-time updates for user. Using real-time weather data, applications can dynamically update features and content based on current conditions, and HTTP request node helps you to do that. Like there are multiple myriad of examples. For example, pushing notifications to Slack. HTTP request nodes enable the delivery of real-time notifications to Slack channels. Then you can post data to Google Sheets via API. You can do multiple tasks. You can create customer records and variety of other tasks and post it into the Google Sheets. Similarly, you can check credit scores via third-party API. So there are a lot of third-party which provides the credit score, right? Like Experian and other agencies. So you can actually use using the third-party API. You can actually do. Okay, so let's take an N8n automation workflow examples to illustrate when we're talking about the HTTP request, right? So this N8n workflow automates the process of enriching company data using URLs submitted via a form and filters the results to append only North American companies to a Google Sheet. The workflow begins with a form trigger. This is the on form submission trigger, where user inputs a comma separated list of URLs. These URLs are captured and processed by a set node called edit fields. Okay, so this is where which converts the comma separated string into an array named URL list. Okay, the split out node then breaks this array into individual items which are passed in batches through a loop. So this is the loop that we are talking about. For each URL, an HTTP request is made to the people data labs. So this is the HTTP request where we are putting the API URL of the People Data Labs. People Data Labs is a company which provides you details such as, employee counts of a company, or what is the size, industry, or which location the company is located at. Okay. So now you can see that this HTTP request, unlike a webhook node, this HTTP request is placed within the workflow. That's number one. Second is, when you are passing an HTTP request, you have to pass on the credential informations or a header authorization informations along with your body and the query parameters. And I will go over it probably in a next video where I'll be talking about what are the different components of an HTTP API, right? For example, query parameters, body parameters, what is the header information or the credential informations that you have to add, or header authorizations you have to add to it. So those details I'll be discussing in a later video, right? But the idea here is that this HTTP request is getting the information from People Data Lab, right? And if there is an error, then you have a stop an error node attached to it. Okay, if the request was not successful, whatever API request that we made to People Data Labs, if it's not successful, it will go to stop an error. If it is successful, then it goes to this loop, okay, where it edits the extracts the specific information from the API response, including company name, employee count, country, continent, and the total funding raised. This data is then evaluated by another conditional node, which is this one, to determine if the company is located in North America, right? And then if company is located in North America, that pass through that geographical check, proceed to the final step. And this last step utilizes the Google Sheets node to append the qualified company data into pre-configured Google Sheet. And then it can also be logged into Slack. So you can see the beauty of N8n as well as the usage of HTTP request, the way we are using it inside these loop items, where loop over items, where for each item it's looping through and making a API request to company called People Data Labs. So I am not able to run this workflow because there are some errors, but I think you get the idea that how we can use the HTTP request. If you're still unsure about when to use which between webhook and HTTP request, here is the rule of thumb. Use a webhook when the process starts from outside of N8n. For example, a new sign up, a Stripe payment, or a CRM update. Use an HTTP request when N8n needs to reach out and get more data or push an action to another system. For example, we saw in People Data Labs thing, we wanted to get additional information about the company, the URL, like for example, facebook.com, what is the company located, what is the employee count, which industry they belong to. So in that case, we'll make an HTTP request. You might want to start a workflow with a webhook when a form is submitted and then use an HTTP request. So you can combine both of them. You start with a webhook, and then in the middle of the automation, you can use an HTTP request to enrich the company info from the People Data Labs, right? So to make this super clear, I have prepared a free downloadable N8n workflow that shows a real world use case using both a webhook and a HTTP request together. Just click the link in the description below to download it. This workflow listens for new form submissions via a webhook, which enriches each company using the People Data Labs API through the HTTP request. Okay, and it's a plug and play import. You can import it into your N8n instance and you're good to go. If this video helped clarify things for you, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more automation tutorials, and drop a comment. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to grab your free N8n workflow below. Happy automating.